What's up, everybody? Welcome to In Love with Horror. My name is AJ.
I'm Christy.
And y'all, welcome to the spoiler discussion for Ryan Coogler's Sinners. It's Ryan Coogler's latest film, his horror epic in Sinners. We're both, Christy and I, are excited to dive into the spoiler discussions, but we thought it best to not do it just with us.
Yeah.
We invited some dope ass guests onto the podcast, y'all. We got Brandon and Dave from PVD Horror to join us to talk all about Sinners with all the spoilery details. So what's going on, Brandon and Dave? Thank you for joining us. How are y'all doing today? And introduce yourselves and tell a little bit about your podcast.
Go ahead, Brandon. It's all you. Hey, what's going on? I'm Brandon. Appreciate you guys for having us on the show. We're big fans of In Love with Horror. So we had you guys on our podcast, so we appreciate you reaching out, having us on yours. Me and Dave have been running PVD Horror since 2018. Content heavy, and also in our community in Providence, Rhode Island, with movie nights and everything else. Dave, you want to touch on a little bit more?
Yeah, man. Thanks. That was a good intro, Brandon. I'm Dave. And yeah, we've been doing this for a while. We got our little local community that's built up in Rhode Island to be a pretty big community, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, if anybody's listening or watching that's local, definitely follow us on social media. We post all of our events and come check them out. They're quite the experience. Mm-hmm. And our most recent one that we're proud of was we just had Kevin Van Hentenreich from Basket Case. He did an in-person meet and greet with everybody, and we screened the film, and that was just like a blast. And then next month we got Karen Parsons, Hillary Banks from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air come in, and we're going to be doing a screening of Death Spa, which was her first film acting role. So we're excited about that. If anybody is watching that's local, but thank you guys so much for having us on. Excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank y'all for joining us, man. Like you said, we was on y'all's podcast. Of course, we have met Brandon at BlurredCon, and we just love y'all's vibe, love y'all's discussion and conversations, and so we thought it'd be a perfect fit for y'all to join us to talk about Sinners. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and do like a quick recap of the film, and then we can give like our overall initial thoughts before we break it down into some categories and go into the spoiler discussion. So, in Sinners, we got the Smokestack twins. They're returning to Mississippi after doing their thing in Chicago, and they want to start a juke joint. So they purchase a property from a white man, and they pay him with money they stole from Capone, supposedly. They enlisted the help of some of their friends: Delta Slim, Mr. and Mrs. Cho, Cornbread, of course, Smokeswoman Annie, and their little cousin Sammy, little Sammy, to help with the grand opening of Club Juke. Remick, an Irish vampire, turned two Klansmen, a Klansman and his wife. They turns them into vampires after escaping the Choctaw tribe members who were trying to hunt them down. And they find their way to the juke joint and, cause a bunch of chaos. And they basically set up shop outside of the juke joint with the intention of trying to get Sammy for themselves. In the end, Smoke survives long enough to kill everyone, basically, including the Klansman, after which he does indeed die from a bullet wound. And Sammy chose to continue on with the blues. Of course, he was battling between, choosing religion or his music, his blues. And of course, he chose the blues and went on to have a career in the blues with probably one of the most incredible mid-credit scenes I've ever seen in a movie. But yeah, that's basically the, very quick rundown of the movie. Now, I thought it'd be great before we actually start talking about a spoiler discussion, just to give each of our overall thoughts on the film. So, of course, I'm going to pass it over to our guests first, and we'll start with you first, Brandon. What were your overall thoughts and feelings regarding Sinners?
Oh man, just checking out this film, just from when we first got the heads up that we were going to be able to promote the film from Showcase Cinemas. Seeing the trailer for the first time, just seeing Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler's name coming up on that screen again, it was something special because, bringing it back, they've been doing it since Black Panther and Creed, so I was already locked in. So being able to watch this film with all the hype that's been going around the promotion, and I think that, the team behind Warner Brothers and everybody that's been doing the promotion for this was outstanding, because that last 2 weeks before this film came out, everything was in your face. They were on every show, and they were just promoting it because it was just like a great job. And then so being able to see this in IMAX man, I was blown away. Like me and Dave was sitting next to each other, and it's just like it was just so cool seeing Ryan break down all the, you know, the IMAX and the technology and everything that had gone into this film, and just seeing the love. So just seeing and being in the movie theater and just watching all that come unfold was something special. And so like it's a masterpiece in my hands. You know what I mean? So to me, it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. Dave, how about you, man?
I mean, it felt more like an experience than a film. And I love that you can watch it and it felt like you're watching like almost two different, like all these genres connecting, right? So you had like there's like this historical part of it, you have like the drama piece, and then, you know, you got the horror that comes a little bit later. But honestly, like even just the build up to the horror scenes, for me, it felt like you were transformed into this time and this era. And yeah, just the whole experience and just feeling everything. And the music, I mean, the music in this film, just, you feel it. You couldn't help but like kind of start like to rock a little bit in your seat while you're watching it. The scene in the barn when Sammy starts singing, that scene lasts so long. And typically I'm not someone who loves like long, like song numbers in movies, but like that scene couldn't have gone on long enough for me though. That like there was so much going on. And even like when they did the Irish song outside, and just watching, I love that they were blending genres there, but like musical genres as well. And they were blending cultures together. There's so many messages in this film, and there's like it just, for me, this was like probably one of my favorite movie going experiences in a long time. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, agree fully. Baby, pass it over to you.
I agree with, you know, Brandon and Dave. Dave, like you said, like it feels like an experience, like it's super immersive. We've seen it twice already.
We have. We've gone twice now.
I could go another one or two times, and I would not, you know, feel any differently about it. But yeah, I absolutely loved everything that Ryan Coogler created with this. Like, I mean, obviously, this is a passion project for him. Like you can, the film oozes passion and love that he cares about the story that he's trying to tell and the people that it's for. I like Brandon, like the marketing for this movie has been insane, but I will say it has nothing on the outpouring of love and reviews that have come after it. Like, every time I open up my phone, it's center. It's crazy. And it's so deserved. It's so deserved. It is not overhyped by any means. So if someone tells you it's overhyped, I want to got some choice words for them, because it's not in any way.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. It's definitely not overhyped. And I almost feel like, you know, I know film is subjective.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? You can have your own opinions. But if you don't like it, in my mind, I'm like,
how?
Like you're just trying to go against the grain just to be different, you know? But no, this film, I agree with Brandon. This shit is a masterpiece to me. Like Christy said, we've seen it twice now. So the first time we watched it was in Dolby. Super dope experience, because y'all know the Dolby projectors, like it's super bright, the HDR, like you can catch all the detail. The second time we watched it was in the IMAX. So of course, you know, larger than life screen, seeing everything like in that format was super dope. Just taking it all in with the visuals, and the audio was like booming in that IMAX theater. But man, like and Christy would tell you, I'm not big on rewatching movies. No. Like I hardly ever go to the theaters to watch something twice. But Sinners was just so powerful that like even when we were going the second time, I was excited as if I had never saw it before. And then catching all the details the second time through, it's just a breathtaking, incredible film. So much messaging throughout the film. Like you said, you can definitely tell it's a passion project. On all fronts. The performances, like everything is just incredible. And I agree, like you said, like I'm ready to watch it like a third time just because of how incredible this film is. And I mean, I'll tell you, the first time we watched this, right, Chris and I were sitting there, and I think you turned to me, you said it first. You were like, this movie's fucking good. And I was like, you're like, this shit is incredible. Like, because you know, sometimes you want a movie to be so good, right? Especially something like this where you're like, oh, I hope this is good. And you sit down, and when it delivers and it's above your expectations, you just like, that feeling where you're just like, damn, like this is it. Like, this is blowing my mind right now. And that's exactly what Sinners did. But yeah, thank everybody for sharing like your initial thoughts. So let's go ahead and start breaking it down a little bit. The first thing I want to talk about was characters. So, we got a pretty, wide range of characters from different backgrounds with different motivations. And then, of course, the big talk is, of course, Michael B. Jordan. It's incredible. His incredible performance of playing twins. And what's so amazing is like you can tell which one's which without even having to like figure it out. Like instantly
that's a really good point.
Incredible job.
Yeah.
Like, playing two, like it feels like two different people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll start with the guests first. Jumping over to Brandon. Like, how did you feel about the characters and their performances, and Michael B. Jordan playing the Smokestack Twins?
Yeah, so going into this film and then finding out that he was playing twins, I was like, oh man, how are they going to do this? And then just going through everything, like seeing, like we said about the promotion and everything like that, and Michael talking about how he prepared for it and how he had a double, and how he worked with him, and he was able to direct the double. And then so that was some of the reins that Ryan kind of let Michael take, because Michael's been directing some films also, and so he trusted him on that. So I think that he did a great job on that and putting it together, like Dave said, like you guys said, you could tell the difference between them. It wasn't like he was playing the same person. And just the build up for everybody else, like Miles Canton, like playing Sammy, that was nuts. That was nuts. Yeah. And that was his first film.
That is insane to me. I can't believe that at all. Like, he's naturally talented.
And he learned to play the guitar for that role.
Which
is crazy.
And then just hearing the breakdown of how he was, how they found him for that role. He was on tour with her, the singer.
Yep.
And then they kind of they found him, one night, and like they said, you never know who's watching or listening to you. So, just come out and show out to do what you got to do. And he was able to get that role. So that's big, So to see an actor, for a singer turned actor just off of his music, and he had so much, in that film, so much passion. His music carried that, so.
Yeah. It kind of piggybacking on what Brandon's saying too, like the casting is I think it was flawless. The main actors obviously are just outstanding, but like those supporting actors, Slim, Delroy Lindo, I think is how you say it. Like his character was, I thought it was had so much to it. Like, he was comedic relief at times, but he was also like a representative of like this older generation that grew up, and he would point that out. Like, there's that really powerful scene when they're driving, and he kind of reflects back on some of his experiences in the past with slavery, and some of his people that he kind of saw that didn't make it and stuff like that, and how he finds his joy in the liquor over anything, because that idea of freedom is just it's kind of nothing to him anymore. It's kind of past, and all the younger people like dreamers. I just thought that character was so important to have in there to kind of show the depth of everybody, and kind of where they are in Mississippi. Freedom's kind of a dream, but maybe not a reality for everybody. So I love that. Yeah. Cornbread was hilarious. And just Cornbread. I think that's what this film does really well too. It adds comedy to, because there's obviously some, big stuff they're talking about here, but they add some comedic relief so they don't lose all their audience, because I'm sure not everybody came to see that, a drama, and it kind of builds up to the horror that we see later. But yeah, just overall cast was just outstanding. I think every performer, every actor in this was just amazing.
Yeah. I agree. Delroy Lindo, man, first of all, he's an icon to me. He's a legend. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's funny, seeing him in this character reminded me of the character he played in the Malcolm X movie. Do you remember the Malcolm X movie?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, yeah. He's got that. Well, obviously it's kind of in the same time period too, those olden times. But I don't know. He just takes me back to good times. He's a nostalgic character. Yeah. And the second time we watched the movie, we sat next to this older couple, and when Delroy's face came up on the screen, this old guy that was sitting on, he's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, I know who that is,
Yeah.
But I like that, Coogler did that. Like he kind of like bridged generations just from the cast that he had in the movie. But yeah, Delroy Lindo was probably my favorite character. Like he had some really good lines. And like you said, Dave, like he gave comedic relief, but he also gave like wisdom at the same time.
Yeah.
And also I loved Annie. What's her name? Can you pull up the
Wunmi?
Yeah. Man, she was so I just love her anyway, but she was gorgeous. And I loved her character because she was like, I don't know. It was good to see like this empowering woman on screen. And she was like there to take care of everybody. But at the same time, she took no nonsense. So like when Cornbread, when Cornbread was at the door and she was like, you ain't talking to him, you talking to me right now. Like I loved her. She was one of my favorite.
And they all listened. And they all listened to her. No, exactly. She says that. It's like everybody falls in line. So that was
exactly. I love that. These people felt like real people. I think that's what it was.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and we'll talk about that in a little bit, talking about the writing. But yeah, that I think that's what helped. Everything felt authentic and felt real. And that just helped with the connection and relating to the characters. But yeah, the cast is incredible. One person we haven't mentioned yet was Jack O'Connell playing Remick.
Yeah.
Like as a villain, like his vampire was fucking dope. I even told Chrissy afterwards, I was like, man, that might be one of my favorite vampires now. Like his portrayal of like, trying to, playing like in the area of like, oh, like I'm trying to help you, you know what I'm saying? And you could tell I think he genuinely thinks that he's, helping out. Like, hey, look, I'm about equality. I'm gonna help you be free. Like, fuck the Klan. Like, you could tell that he really believes that, but not understanding, what that entails. But then also like the menacing elements to it.
And he looked really cool.
He just looked, eyes thing, like some of those, like, and we'll talk about that later with the visual, but some of the shots, like when they're outside and you see just the eyes and shit, like, his Remick vampire was just super dope. And just the casting across the board was just incredible. But yeah, the Michael B. Jordan obviously like, really
iconic,
carrying this film, playing two different characters that the technology of it, like they felt cool. It felt like he had a twin brother playing with them, you know what I'm saying? Like it never felt like awkward where, sometimes you watch a film where someone's playing two characters, you can kind of tell like something ain't really matching up, right? But in this film, it felt like they were both there at the same time. Whether it be dialogue or him handing him a cigarette or whatever the case may be. Everything just felt right. You know what I'm saying? The characters felt right. I love all the characters. And we'll talk about it with the writing, but man, Chrissy and I've been walking around the house just saying quotes like nonstop since the weekend, especially since we saw it. Because our second viewing was last night. So we used to walk around the house just like just quoting like every single thing about this movie. That's just how heavy the impact with the characters are. But yeah, so speaking of like, the writing and the plot and stuff like that, we can start talking about that. And within this category, I wanted to cover anything in relation to the story, how it paced, the dialogue, any interactions that were significant or special to y'all when it comes to the writing. But of course, handing over to PVD, Brandon, what really stuck out to you? What was special to you in terms of the plot and the writing for Sinners?
The plot and the writing, I think it was great. And I listened to your guys' first take out of the theater, and I definitely agree on some things that you guys said. There was some little plot holes and a little like at the beginning, like with the dialogue. Sometimes, like you would catch that and you would be like, all right, yeah. But after watching it the second time, I'm just like, all right, there's things that you can bypass because there's so many elements in this film that was done well.
Thing. It's like, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's bad. One bad line. It's okay because everything else is way better.
And so it was just special because it was just like the character build up, just going into the film. What was it, like the 2 hour and 17-minute film, right? So just that first hour, just getting to know everyone, and just even in that short, like little glimpse of like, just the camera just changing and then just kind of focusing on someone, it was just like you felt like you knew them. So it was like, I think they did a good job with that.
I'm not gonna lie, that first hour, I didn't want that to end. Like I love the horror part of it, but like I loved the build up, getting to know these characters, kind of seeing what their life was like, and kind of these interactions they were all having. For me, I was eating all that up. There was so many elements that I loved too that they threw in, talking about like the hoodoo. I love that they threw that in, because that, you know, and like its protection power, and like how that ends up playing a little bit into the story later on when, you know, all the action happens. But I thought that was a really cool thing to have added in, because, you know, post-slavery, around this time, that's kind of something that probably was very much like, you know, you'd be going into a cabin kind of out in the woods and like hidden from everybody. So so that felt really cool. The other thing, like with you don't know what was true and what wasn't. Like we kind of learned that like the story about the guitar was a lie. When he told him how he got the guitar. But like also that that reveal right there kind of also showed you that like other things could have been a lie too, right? Like you said, like supposedly got the money, they got money from Capone or something like that. Like, you know, you never know what they said was honest or what they said was a lie. So it made you think, but you didn't hear that till the very end. And I love that, because it makes you go back and say, well, what else did they say that probably wasn't true as well? But yeah, I just felt like all that was like really well played, like saving that tidbit for the end, making you reflect. And I don't know if it's too soon to share this, but like my favorite line in the whole film is in that post-credit scene when Sammy goes, you know, for like, I forget how he phrases it, but basically, you know, prior to the, you know, the night or whatever, the end of the night, that was one of the best nights of my life. Was it like that for you guys?
Yeah, before the sun went down, that was one of the best nights of my life.
That was like the most powerful like line right there, because the way that he delivered it felt so real and like honest and just sad at the same time. And you just know that the way he delivered it was just so authentic, and it just really hit home. So I love that line right there.
Yeah, and Michael's response was strong too, though. You know, that was his last time he seen his brother.
I know.
And the last time I seen the sun.
So
yeah, and like when we get into like the messages and all that stuff, we can, you know, I want to like talk about that a little more. But yeah, that was a really deep scene right there.
Oh man, yeah. I feel like once you watch it again, because like Brandon brought up, the first time we watched it, I definitely feel differently than I do after watching it the second time. And you can just see a lot more of the intentionality through the writing and the plot things, you know, throughout the film. Like you can see what he might have been trying to tell us through each, you know, way along the story. And that to me, it makes him one of the best storytellers that I've seen in a horror film. Like from the beginning, the very first, you know, we learn about like the firekeepers and all that stuff. Like all that stuff is super interesting, but very intentional to the story. And I don't know, I just feel like, I don't know how to put it into words. All I got to say is this shit was fire, honestly. But yeah, I really loved how he made these characters so real. Just like even in the small things, my favorite scene is with Annie and Smoke in their little cabin. And we learned so much about those two characters in literally like 3 minutes.
Exactly.
Like backstory, how they feel about each other, you know, all that stuff. And the scene is so short, and we learned all that just because it was written very well.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one thing I like about the writing is there's a lot of like small detail moments that just create this larger picture of like what's happening in that era, what's happening, you know, with this group of people. Like Dave, I think, had brought up, you know, that moment where, you know, Delta Slim is talking about what happened to, you know, his band of friends. And just even in that, like, you know, 2-minute section, like, you know, we understand that there's still a lot of like trauma and tragedy within this area. And I think it's also special about Sinners from like a plot and writing standpoint is typically when we get like a Black centric film from this era, it focuses more on like the tragedy, the trauma of the era. So it's going to deal specifically with like Jim Crow stuff and just like how punishing it is for the Black experience in that time. And in this film, we kind of more focus on like the community just trying to find, you know, peace within all the evil that's going on around them. And so while, you know, Ryan Coogler was able to kind of mention those things, so it's like, hey, look, this is what's going on, but I'm trying to show them, you know, like I'm trying to show the community aspect and the positive aspects in this negative time. So even from that aspect, like the films felt like super dope and refreshing, because I'm like, we're getting this period piece, but it's not focused on all the bullshit from that time.
It doesn't feel depressing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel depressing. Yeah. And I think that's part of the fun of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially when you see like, you know, all these Black people just having a good time. And so I do want to go into messaging, because, you know, Dave mentioned like, you know, some of the messages, and within the writing of those small moments, there's like a shit ton of messaging. Like, I'm telling you right now, like, man, you could probably write whole fucking thesis on this movie. You know what I'm saying?
People have.
Because like even after our second viewing, Christy and I just keep talking about it at home, and we're like, oh yeah, and this means this, and it's like, oh, this piece, like we're like just dissecting the hell out of this movie. And there's just so many different you know, pieces of messaging. And I mentioned, you know, that time of, you know, community, you know, people working hard. Like there's even like the small moments where like, you know, the gentleman comes up to the bar and he's like, hey, you know, it's gonna be 50 cents. He's like, damn, all I got is 30 cents and you know, these 2 wooden nickels or whatever. You know what I'm saying? He's like, but these are good at the general store. And Stack, you know, he's like, oh, you know, oh, no problem. Like, how you like it cold? You know what I'm saying? You see Smoke, because Smoke all about business.
Yeah.
He's like, well, what the fuck y'all doing? Like, we running a business here, you know what I'm saying? But then what does Stack say? He's like, man, like that dude worked his ass off for them wooden nickels. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just trying to have a good time and get away from all that shit. So like just, you know, small moments like that, you know, speak to different messaging, you know what I'm saying? So if y'all want, we can kind of shift and start talking about any specific messages that like you pull from that everyone pulled from this film. Of course, I'll kick it off to PVD Horror. Brandon, was there anything significant messaging wise that you really liked or appreciated, or maybe there's something that people haven't caught on to yet that maybe that you caught on to?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people caught on to this, but I just think that like the message was, you know, like the film title itself, Sinners, you know, everybody in this film's a sinner in their own way. You know, we had Delta Slim, he was an alcoholic, like Dave said. And it was so important how everyone was able to touch on like things that they needed to like kind of get together, because you had Miles dealing with you know, Sammy is dealing with, you know, the church life, you know what I mean? And his father not agreeing with everything and saying, you know, you keep dancing with the devil, he's going to follow you home. So it's just like in our communities, you know, in everyone's community, like we all deal with these things, you know? So it was good to see like each thing kind of representative in their own way. So that's just one thing that just definitely stood out to me that was special. Dave, I don't know what else you want to add on to that.
You guys got a lot of time. I left here like just like jotting notes. When I got out of the theater, I was just like kind of going through it in my head, like, oh, like what? There was so many things being thrown at you. The religious piece was interesting to me because I know you guys already kind of touched on that, but it was like this. There's like this idea that you either had to choose protection from the church or, you know, the dangers of the world, right? There's the idea of like, you know, kind of like seeking freedom or success that didn't exist. That's going to come with the devil, right? So you needed to like make the choice. And for Sammy, that was a really tough thing because like following your passion, that's not okay. Like that's going to take you down the devil's road. And so I just feel like that idea of having to leave your community to follow things that you're interested in, that felt like, you know, a big message that he was sending. Like sometimes you have to stray, you have to go that road, but it's not always what you think it's going to be, right? And sometimes it's that journey. But like that, I said that last line he says at the end of the night, the alternative, that being a forever person, like living forever. That's not ideal either, right? So there's that idea of sticking back and never chasing your passion or your dreams, but also it isn't great. But either is that idea of like just completely losing yourself in passion or, like thrill seeking. That's not ideal either. Cause like Michael B. Jordan says, that was the best night of my life. The last time I saw my brother, but also last time I saw the sun. Right. So it's kind of that reflection of like, just kind of being true to who you are and not falling into like the pressures of what the world's trying to draw you into. And like, yeah, there's so much to this movie.
So much.
So much.
So many layers.
And the genre connecting stuff though feels really like you had mentioned, like generational, kind of like showing the generational connection, the music, all like genres coming together, the actual film genres all coming together. I think there was something to be said about like just the connection of people in general. Like every culture, every background has some kind of connection to a film like this. Even though this film was about, more about a specific community, I think everybody can relate to it in some way, shape, or form. And I think he was kind of showing that, but he was also making it very personal to like something that was important to him, I think. So yeah, a lot there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, there, like you said, there's a lot of messages in the film. But also there were a lot of like historical references. Like I learned so much. It's almost like watching a documentary. Like, I didn't know that. For example, I had no idea that, there was literally a whole Chinese community that lived in the Delta in the 30s. And the first time we watched the film, obviously I completely missed it until someone said something about it. But when you watch it the second time, you see how Mrs. Chow goes from one side of the street to the other side of the street. Right. And then the first store where her husband worked in, it was only Black patrons in the store. But on the other side of the street is only white people in the store. But that's how it really was in the Delta during those times, like in that time period. Like, as she said, they all just stayed in their own lane. Like we had a white area and a Black area. And the people in the Chinese community kind of could go between the two because they weren't Black. Obviously working in the fields, like, and so that's a lot closer to me when they say stuff like being a sharecropper. Like my grandmother was a sharecropper and she actually lived on sharecropping land. Like her house up until she passed away was on the land that she worked on when, as an adult. My mama, she used to have to pick cotton and peas and peanuts, and they all had a quota to meet. Like that's real. That's our history. You know what I'm saying? Like all that stuff was just super powerful that he included all that. Like you mentioned the money, the plantation money, only money that they could spend on the plantation. But Annie accepted that money because she knew that's all the people that all they had. That stuff was just,
and they worked hard.
The details of this is just crazy to me.
Yeah, the details are insane, man. And like, man, all the messaging is incredible. Like I really like the messaging, of course, like music.
Yes.
And what music means to communities, how it brings communities together, how it connects generations, legacies, to their ancestors. I liked a lot of the religious messaging too. There's a lot of different conversations that even like there's one part where Delta Slim, was talking to Sammy. He was like very brief, talking about the power of music. And then there's the messaging about like appropriation and taking from communities, in this movie specifically from the Black community, right? And then also, and a lot of it came from like Delta Slim being like the wise old man. You know what I'm saying? Like I think about when he was in that car and he talked about the exploitation of Black people, right? And he talked about like he's like how they basically had them locked up and force them to go play at these different places. And he made the comment of like, they like to hear the blues, but they don't like who plays it. You know what I'm saying? And then of course, Remy wanted to take, Sammy for himself, and what that meant, even when he was about to try to kill him or turn him. You mentioned like, man, I want your experiences. I want your songs. I want your memories. You know what I mean? Like taking from the community, for himself. And there's just like everybody said, there's messaging across this film. You could really do multiple essays on what all of these different things mean. And like Dave said too, obviously this movie is focused on the Black experience, the Black community. But I think other communities can still relate to a lot of different elements within the film, because they even talk about at the very beginning when they have like the animated opening about how different cultures have the different names for the storytellers or within their cultures. And then obviously the ancestry point, because we even see within that dope scene, we'll start talking about visuals in a second, but in that main Warner scene when they're going around, when the Chows were dancing, you see like the ancestors with their garbs and their dancing and stuff like that. It's just dope, man. The movies is dope. All the messaging is dope. But we like Dave said, we could talk on this all day. So I'm gonna take it to the next category. And I talked about, of course, the scene that most people talk about, right? Which is that and I think you did say it is a Warner, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That Warner where they're, going through the different generations of Black music, you know what I'm saying? And how all the music was blended together, seeing the different musicians, dancers, what have you, across all the generations. It was just an incredible scene visually. And from a cinematography standpoint,
he even think about this?
I don't know.
That was nuts.
I don't know conceptually how he even came up with that. But it's just it's an incredible looking film all around. Yeah. What's the cinematographer's name? I know you know her name.
Autumn Arkapaw.
Yes. And I think you said she was the first woman to be a cinematographer filming on IMAX cameras, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yep. But she did an incredible job as well. But passing over to PVD Horror, starting with you, Brandon. What were some of the incredible visual moments that stood out to you? Was there any shots in particular that kind of stuck out your memory that you took with you afterwards?
In the music scene?
Oh, just in general, whole film. In
general, I would have to just say, that like we were just saying, touching on the music scene in itself, because we're going through those things now as we get older, and just growing up listening to like music that my parents like to what I like, and then you have that gap where you're like, I don't know about that, because I'm at that point right now with my kids where we're listening to this rap music, but then it's at the end of the line, we're going to accept it down the road because it's going to continue to keep moving and go and growing. And so like at that point in time, like I was just sitting in that chair and kind of just like watching and experience that, like my shift going through that phase growing up with music, and so it's really important. And so like music is really big for me and Dave also. It's not just horror movies. This is how everything was like created for us. Like we're sharing music, movies, everything, and so when that scene came on, it was like really special. And just seeing everything kind of transition, it kind of made me feel like also kind of like that Kendrick Lamar video, the Squabble Up, how it had all those elements into it too. So it was special. So, and just also, I know a lot of people, kind of been running with it, but saying, oh, they're saying that he stole a lot of things from other movies. No, it's about what he loved, because it's like, I know when people were saying something about From Dusk Till Dawn, no, he took like key elements and stuff, things that he loved and things that he liked. And it wasn't that he like stole it. It was just, he just kind of made it visual as his own, just like everybody else does. So exactly. I know that discussion has been going on. So just overall visually, like you guys said, you guys seen it in IMAX for the second time. So I seen it in IMAX twice, and just seeing the ratio of the film screen just change when like those key parts were coming on. That was special, because I don't know how it is for other films, like not other films, but this film and other theaters, like how it just stays one, screen size, so. But IMAX is definitely the way to, watch this film. And like you guys said, she was the first female to do that. That's 100-pound camera. You know what I mean? Okay. Those cameras are fucking big. So I just think that this film had a lot of first things on it that checked off the mark. It's the first horror film to get an A from the Cinema Score. So hey, you know what I mean? Hey, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah. First, as far as scenes go, definitely, the music scene in the barn, like you guys are saying, but I keep going back to like that other scene outside when they're doing like the Dublin song or whatever.
Dublin.
Everyone going with it, and then like the way they're dancing and the way the camera's moving during that scene, kind of doing like a spin. I just absolutely love that scene, and I thought that it just captured something that it's a song that's not creepy at all, has no it has none of that context to it normally, but like in the realm of what was going on, it was such an intense song for that moment, and I really love that scene. And just in general, the thing that I keep going back to when I think about this film, just like simple scenes like the car going through like on the dirt roads with the fields on the side, like those scenes to me they were so beautiful because they really, and like Brandon said, like, you know, going back to the IMAX thing, that definitely helped because we're watching on a giant screen. You felt like you were there, though. It felt like you were transformed into this time, and those scenes were just beautiful. It's a weird like contrast of something beautiful with also like this sad context to the history of that area. So I just felt like those were really intentional and powerful shots that he was like throwing in there.
Yeah. I got a lot of shots, but I'm not going to give y'all a long list. But I think, obviously, I still love that scene with Annie and Smoke, right? It's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
But their shot before they walk in the house and it comes like pans back and you see those branches from those huge ass trees. That was I was like, I want this framed on my wall. Like there was a lot of moments like that. Like I want to frame this. But that was a really beautiful shot. I also really like the transition of them switching the stores when she goes to get Lisa. And I really like the way the camera kind of follows them. Yeah, I really like that a lot. And obviously the music scene, like you can't help but love it because it's so freaking creative. And I was like, I don't get it. And then the second time we watched it, maybe because we watched it in IMAX this time, but there's so much you get to see more of than when we watched it in the Dolby theater. But like your eyes go everywhere. You're trying to catch everybody, trying to see all the different people in the backgrounds and stuff like that. And it's like, how did this guy think of this? And then obviously when we see what Remick sees, like the fire blazing, it's just so amazing, man. It's just a beautiful, beautiful scene.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned it too, like the concept of that scene too, like when the roof was on fire, the roof is on fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, we set it off. Like that was cool. But yeah, all the visual elements in this film, like Dave mentioned too, like it's just a gorgeous movie to look at. All these scenes are beautiful. Like even seeing like the sea of cotton, even though you know what it kind of symbolizes sometimes, but like he gave it this like weird dreamy feel, like, but it was still beautiful. You know, all the little details from the costumes, like being period accurate, to the cars, like all the small little details of the era that just gave it like that, you know, authentic feel. But just everything looks so good. I loved like the nighttime scenes. We see like the vampires outside with the eyes all glowing.
Those are super
like
cool.
Just some of those shots look crazy. Like especially Remick. I was telling you the last time I watched it, I was like, man, this shit is so cool. Like it just looks so incredible to watch. And just all the different camera movement, making a lot of those music scenes feel very dynamic.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like I'm not really big on like musicals or musical numbers. Like she'll tell you like if there's like a long musical sequence, I'll be like, all right, now let's get back to it. But this film made them so engaging.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it helps that the music was all really good, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I felt so engaged in those scenes, and they felt so dynamic.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of musical numbers, but it's so gripping. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with the way they shot it as well. But beautiful, beautiful film in Sinners. Now I just mentioned, you know, the music, of course. So we got to talk about the soundtrack. Chrissy and I are huge fans of the soundtrack. It has been playing in the car as we were going to the store and everything. Of course, Ludwig Göransson was the composer for the score and the soundtrack of Sinners. Dude is goated at this point. But passing over to PVD Horror, starting with Brandon, you know, coming out of Sinners, man, and watching the film and that experience of the music. Like, what were your thoughts, you know, on the music from the actual like songs that they put out, as well as the actual score and instrumentals that were playing throughout the film?
Yeah, I think the sound for this film was special, you know. And so like a few days before, like I said, like the whole promotion of everything that's been going on, they put a post out with the track listings of everything, and I'm like, all right, let me listen to this and see what it's like. And then so just listening to it was like, okay, cool. And then like that single that they rolled with Rod Wave, you know, that was special, you know, to add all that in, you know, I mean, add it together. You know, like I said, we were just talking about like my son's, you know, where his musical choice is right now. You know, that's what that. Taking that together and branching it together, that was special, you know. And so I think it was really great, and they didn't hold back on that. So I got to listen to the rest of the soundtrack. But when I was in the theater, everybody was like, I'm putting it on Spotify right now. They go on the top. So I got to finish checking it out though. But from what I like, you know, like I said, Miles Canton. So definitely looking forward to whatever he has coming out in the future.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That song, "I Lied to You" by him. That's that one he does in that scene. But like listening to that in my car, I texted Brandon when I got in the car. I was like, "Oh man, I hope they do release a soundtrack." He's like, "They did." I've been listening to it as well. I just love the you know, the mix of you know, different genres. The blues just like it just hits so like, you know, special after watching a film where you kind of like got to see the performances and kind of get that energy from the film as well. It's a great soundtrack, but like the way they use music in this film is excellent. Like it's just so perfect. And I like, you know, like I said, like they had the Irish music, but they also had the church music. You know, in the very beginning, like every community, music is like important for, right? It's community building. It's like, you know, it represents them. So I just like how they were able to continue that, even make it into the soundtrack and just like mix it up. So you have all the different like representations in there. So yeah, it's very thoughtful, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I obviously, well, you know, I love all the music. Like I said, we've been playing the daggone soundtrack back front to back. And I can't stop thinking about it. It's like, oh, and like when you play a song like from the score, like you know what scene this goes to. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I know what scene that was.
Instantly transported right back to the film.
Instantly. But that's just how, you know, well the two married together, like the music and the visuals. But yeah, I really loved even the Irish music, which is funny because it's not like I listen to Irish music, but that shit went hard.
Man, that Rocky Road to Dublin, that shit was fire.
Like they didn't get down. I really liked it. I even liked what's the one that they do together softly when
that's
Mary comes outside.
Will you go, Lassie go?
Oh, man, that was good. Yeah. I was like, dang, this sounds good right here.
It did. It sounded really good.
But it was funny in that scene though when they were trying to get in the club and they were all on point singing, and they're just like, this shit is good though. We let them
in. Corporate was like,
they sound good.
But yeah, I love that. And then I really like. I mean, I just really like all the songs, but I really do like the "I Lied to You" song. And I just really love his voice. Oh my gosh, it's so clear.
Yeah.
And just like
his voice is so clear, so powerful. Like, and like when you hear the songs, like you get chills. You know what I'm saying?
It's like, because like in the movie, right, when he comes up at the train station and he's like, oh, he's the best blues player, and then the song, man, what you know, yo, I got socks older than you, what you know about the blues, you know? But he sing like he know about the blues. I thought that was good, but the music was great.
I love that scene with Sammy and Stack in the car when you know, because Sammy Smoke and Stack been gone for 7 years,
right?
So they haven't even heard Sammy sing yet. So that moment when Stack hears him sing in the car and he like, that's our reaction too as an audience member. You know, we're like, oh shit, like this dude's singing. Like, but man, like the soundtrack is incredible. Like, we were already big fans of Ludwig anyway. And so when we found out he was doing the music for this film, we was like, oh shit, like we already knew this music was gonna be incredible, but I did not expect just how special this music was going to be. All the different blues elements sounded amazing. Even like you said, the Irish elements sounded really good. And I was just shocked by that. Like you said, and that's not something that we ordinarily listen to.
Yeah.
But just given the context of the film and the stories behind the film, it's just something like additional, like an extra layer to it. You know what I'm saying?
Probably how Brandon was brought up earlier about the different sounds. Like you can hear like that harmonica and like all those elements of what makes up blues music, and you hear it like it's individual, but it's still all blended together. It's like how did that work? But he makes it work really good.
Now, one sound I really like in this film was whenever like the terror started, and it was that like I don't even know how to describe it, but like the choir with the almost like classical, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know how to describe what that sounds like, but it sounded, I was like, man, this is crazy. Like the onslaught that's going on in my ear, in my head right now, but it's working because I just never heard nothing like it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just a testament to Ludwig. Now, something that's interesting, because we just watched some behind the scenes stuff about this film. I didn't know that I guess a lot of the music was already composed before they even started filming. So I saw Michael B. Jordan doing an interview that some of the music was playing on the set. So he was like, that's the first time he's ever done a film where like they already had the music, so you could really tap into the vibe of the scene and stuff like that. So it's crazy just to know that like Coogler's and Ludwig's vision before this, like how dialed in they were. You know what I mean? It's incredible.
Also wanted to mention just like some of the and now it makes sense now that you mentioned that part, I guess, how some of their movements, I guess, on screen match the music. So like, you know, when Annie's lighting the match and you hear that ding, 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 and that kind of goes with the way she's lighting the match. And then when Pearline is doing her little dance in the club and the stomping and all that stuff that goes with the music, like, man, it's just so freaking intentional. I just love it.
And that was a good visual moment too, like the stomps and, you know, just beating shit out of that dude. Like, that was just some cool, like, filmmaking right there. But now I mentioned, you know, the part of the score where the terror is happening, right? Where they have that classical blaring and the choir, you know what I'm saying? Now let's talk about the, I guess, more horror elements of this film. So, you know, that doesn't really kick in until about halfway into the movie, but I feel like when it does kick in, like it kicks in. So passing over to PVD horror, like from the horror side of the film, was there anything that really stood out to you in terms of like the scares or just the horror elements, you know, with the vampires and so on?
Dave, you want to start off on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it was like by the time we got there, it was like a nice build up to it. So you're ready for it. I feel like by the time it comes, and I just like how it just goes, like it doesn't stop, right? It starts and then you're just going, but like that little build up right before where you got them kind of going out and like you're wondering how this is all going to happen. They're kind of luring some of them out and stuff like that. Like I loved all that because it really kind of set you up for like, all right, I know at any point in time this movie's probably going to kick in. So like, when is that about to happen? I like how they like built it up. But during all the scenes, I loved like just how they just dove into it. Like they really like leaned into the vampire aspect and like, we got to get the stakes. They're ready to, you know, you just felt like they were ready to battle. That scene was pretty intense when they came in and just like, you know, I really just liked the way that they played it out. There was no like holds barred. It was just like, we're just going to go with it at this point. And yeah, just right up until that, you know, that final scene where he's in the water with them, it just kept going. It didn't stop. Actually, it just felt like full throttle up until that point. So I really enjoyed that. That was really well done to me.
I did want to go back to what Dave pointed out about like this, when they kind of like pop off and how it's all Miss Chow's fault because she couldn't keep her mouth closed and just be patient. And she was like, come on in, y'all. I was so mad.
That shit was crazy.
See, I was talking to Mark about that. I was just like, everybody's going to hate on Miss Chow because it is what it is, but you got to put yourself in a parent's shoes. If I'm a parent and that's going to pop off, you're telling me you're going to go see little Lisa at the market? Nah, you ain't going nowhere. Because at the end of the day, at that point in time, we're just all business people. They weren't friends. And it was like, I didn't care about you. And at that time, when your kid's on the line, you don't care about yourself. So you're sitting there just like, yo, open that motherfucking door. Let's get this shit going. And
she already lost her husband. So at that point, it's like my daughter's the only thing I got. Yeah, that seemed kind of like, that was kind of sad when you realize she turned. I felt bad for her at that point.
I didn't feel bad for her. No. I know you did.
Yeah, I did feel bad. I was just like, man, like, you know, in her mind, she's like, damn, like I already lost my husband. I definitely don't want to lose my daughter. So I'm just at that point, fuck it. Like, let's just get it on with.
Yeah.
So I could try to either stop it, get turned, go get, you know, so whatever I got to do. Like, this is my only chance because if they stay outside, they might actually go to the grocery store. She should have
walked outside by herself then. Yeah. Why are you bringing it on us? You want to go handle it? You go ahead on about your business.
I am with Christy on that one, though, because like they made it that far without them coming in. They knew they were safe. Like, if you want to make that decision, you go on your own. Like, don't do this to us. I get you.
But Brandon, what were your thoughts about like the scares and the vampire stuff?
Chrissy, I have to agree with you because I'm a big vampire fan, you know, so I felt like it wasn't enough at first, but then it was just like, but at the same time, it just has so much going on that it was okay. You know what I mean? So it didn't need as much, but I would have liked to have more, everything was cool. And just like that whole battle scene, you know, and just seeing everybody just transition in and just the whole, you know, the lore of the whole vampire thing of getting permission of coming in, you know what I mean? I think they handled that very well, you know, like we said with Cornbread saying, well, at least let me get my money. Here's about his money that whole movie, you know what I mean? So
exactly.
Where's my $2? Everything. So, they did a great job. And then even when Mary, when she just walked in and she was like, well, you gonna let me in? And it was easy for her to get in. And just having that whole transition and how everything played out. And so just even going back to the lead vampire, like how he was just so quick on his toes when he was running from, you know, the Native Americans, and then he got to that doorstep, and then like at first I didn't even see it until they zoomed back into it again, like the Klan's sheets and everything like that, and he was just like quick, like, oh yeah, you know, and so it was a special film, and it was just done right. And I feel, like I said, I would want to have more vampire, more horror to it, but it was enough.
They all had their own personality. I mean, it was a little different from their regular personality. It was more like provocative or seductive, but they all had their own take of that. And I appreciated that. Like you said, like with her, like being able to walk in the way she was like, ain't you going to let me in? And like, yeah, sure. But like, you know, versus Cornbread, who was a little more like, you know, aren't you going to, you know, just the way each one of them had their own. But like Bo had his, like, he's like, come on, let's get in the car. And he's like trying to pull her out.
Right,
They all had their own like different personality. I appreciated that. It wasn't just like this blanket thing. And then Remick obviously being like the most like manipulative of all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
I also like Cornbread when he had his hand like this. He was like,
that was such a great scene. She's like, why don't you go ahead and bring your big ass in here?
But it was also special too because seeing Smoke trying to lure Stack out, you know what I mean? And he was just like, come on, brother. Like, you know what I mean? Like that conversation between two brothers, like, you always there for me? And he was sitting there thinking about shit. They had to pull him back because he was ready to go with him, you know? So
he did,
So just that whole concept of everything, just getting everything together, I think they handled it all well. So
each of them had to decide like, who am I here for? Like on this earth for, right? Like he had to decide, is there even a me if I don't have my brother? The same as like, you know, the other one had to decide like, if they're going to go for my daughter, what's the point of this? Like, I gotta protect her. Like they each had something they had to like determine whether it was worth, you know, coming out or letting them in for. So I love that. Like there's so many different layers to it.
Yeah. And from like a horror aspect, I actually like how this film handled like the horror of being a vampire. You know, sometimes, you know, I feel like, especially in today's times, like vampires are always made to be out like they sexy, like you live forever, like it's glamorous, you know what I'm saying? And like, I feel like with this, I really like how Annie described the concept between like a haint and a vampire, right? Where it's like, hey, look, you know, with the vampire, like your soul is trapped here and you're just, you know, drowning in hate and you're cold. And she's like, you know, I want my soul to be free so I can go be with, you know, the people that are waiting for me in the afterlife. So I really like that dynamic because like Dave said, like you're weighing that against like the do I just, go forever and just, have to be stuck with this community and have to live with this hunger or whatever case may be, or, do I, live normally so my spirit can be free to go be with the ancestors. And that's that kind of spiritual aspect, that through line throughout the film. But that was that for the horror side. Like I thought that was dope how they handled that.
Yeah. I thought the vampires themselves looked creepy. Especially like when you see them in the dark, like when Cornbread went to go use the bathroom. And that was so creepy. Like I had to whisper his name and stuff like that. And the way that the camera was shifting with the trees, it made it even more creepy. And like the eyes in the darkness. But that stuff was super scary. And then the fact that this dude could fly.
Oh yeah,
that was nuts.
I was like, he can fly.
Yep.
Then that's terrifying. There's no way for you to go. This dude can fly. So looking back at it the second time and then realizing when he jumps into the screen, I'm like, oh, so he must have been flying. But obviously we didn't do that.
Right. Yeah. When he's getting chased by the Choctaw tribe.
Yeah. I was like, dang, this dude can fly. And then the last scene, obviously, when Sammy's, trying to run from him, then we really see him like go at him. I was like, dang, this is crazy. But I thought they did a great job with like this visual vampire. Different than what we've seen in other stuff before.
And in that moment he was like in full vampire mode. Like his claws was like long as hell. Full teeth, like he was in full vampire rage.
Shout out to Michael B. Jordan with his fangs with the gold on the side. That was so cool.
And another thing that stuck out to me was like even the drool, like it was white. You know what I mean? And then you could see that. It was like, all right, you could see like the whole difference of how they were so tempted to, they were hungry. They, what I mean? They were drooling and it was just glowing white. And it was just like, all right, they're doing a little something different here.
It was something different, all right. Yeah. It's just like, you want some? I was like,
oh yeah. They definitely took that and turned into the sexy mode with it. You know what I'm saying?
Was it sexy? It was nasty to me.
Depends on, I guess, your level. But speaking of like the hunger element with the drool and stuff, right? Just like that hunger. I really like that scene where like, they realized that the dude that they took outside, like it wasn't bit after. So he's banging on the door, get back inside. And by the time they open it, like Cornbread got to him. And that's when Bo pulls up and he's talking to him like, you don't see him getting killed right there. He's like, oh, him? He's like, oh, Cornbread is hungry. He's real hungry.
I want him to call for you. Let's go.
Scene, did you say something? Okay. Speaking of that scene, the effects were super good. Like Cornbread's face looked like it was hanging on by a thread almost. But it looked so good. Like the effects were good. I thought
I wanted to see more of that. Like it looked so good. I was like, I need to see another angle of it. Because I couldn't believe what I was like, how real it looked. Yeah, that was great.
It looked really good.
Yeah, the effects were, I think, overall super dope. A lot of that makeup, like from the bites, like the bites look real.
Yeah,
like when
so nasty.
Like when they were like, Stag, you lost a lot of blood. He's like, oh yeah, like you see his neck was just it was just nasty. But all the different face and neck rippage looked really good. Obviously, Remick looked really good.
Yeah,
I thought overall like the effects were super dope. I thought like Remick's death.
Him burning.
That was just like a really like dope visual. Like his spirit releasing was like, obviously he had all those years of built up, I'm gonna call it energy. Yeah. And so when he finally dies and it's that release, he gets this big like fire tornado and he kind of yells. That was a like dope like effects moment as well. And then just from like the technology standpoint of the movie, right? Like how they filmed Michael B. Jordan twice. I know they said they did like 2 different cameras, and then I think he wore like some sort of like
techno dolly.
Yeah, the techno dolly thing around him, and like to operate and still have all that stuff on, like, and still be able to perform, like, that's a testament to his ability. But anything else, PVD horror, y'all want to add on with the like overall effects within Sinners?
Let me see. just the lighting, everything, you know, Chrissy, like you said before, you know, just for, you know, for Black actors to show up on the screen like that, that was special. Just the lighting of everything to capture everyone in the dark, even outside. And when they were doing that, the Irish dance, they were still zooming in on everybody's face, get everybody right with the close-ups, just everything. Dave, what else you want to add?
Yeah, no, I can't really add much more. I mean, it's just a really nice looking film, and it's really impressive overall, just like what they were able to capture and just how that was able to translate to us as viewers, like the feel of every shot, of every scene, the realism. Like there was nothing that ever took me away. Like, you know, there's sometimes you get there's like an effect or something and you're like, oh, and you're like, you suddenly snap out of that, like being in that reality of their world. Nothing ever did that in that film. And I think that was actually a big deal because that's it's a relatively long film, and to be able to be locked in that whole film and not be taken away at all, that's impressive, because that happens especially in movies these days with like CGI and all this stuff. Like there's moments where it's like, oh, I don't think I like that, or you know, it just, you'll get that little glimpse, but there was nothing like that throughout this whole film.
That is a really good point. I don't think I did either. I was always locked in.
Always, like the whole movie. All 2 hours 17 minutes literally, because of, you know, with the end credit stuff, you know what I'm saying? Locked all the way in.
That's a really good point.
Now as we come to a close with this spoiler discussion, I want to hand it over to PVD Horror. Like, any last overall thoughts about Sinners? Is there anything that maybe you haven't had the chance to mention yet? Any final thoughts? If you want to give it a rating, you can give it a rating as well. But what are your like closing overall thoughts on Sinners that you'd like to share?
For me, I give it a 5 out of 5. Like I said before, it's a masterpiece. It's just so big, you know, and for, you know, Ryan to merge horror with all, you know, with a time period piece was special, you know what I mean? Because whatever he does, he just takes it to the next level. It was just like, even with Black Panther, like we said, it was a superhero movie, but it was more than that. And this is what Sinners is. And, you know, he was able to take horror, which is always kind of looked down upon from the viewers, you know, Black actors, a film about a piece and period of time that was, you know, and he made it shine. And so he made it happen, and like I'm just so happy for everything that's going on for this film, you know. So it's, you know, black films, you know, taking over right now, because it is what it is, you know. We needed this, you know, because that's the thing all the time. We needed this because, you know, it's all the time. Like, you can look back at the older films like Blackula and everything like that. It just has those pieces to it where it's like, all right, it was done in a certain point in time, and then now we're like taking it to the next level, you know. And so, you know, like we talked about it last time on our podcast, you know, we just need that, you know, the right people behind us to kind of like showcase our talents and everything that we have going on. So Ryan, congratulations, 10 out of 10, masterpiece. Dave, on to you.
I mean, I also gave it 5 stars. This like just hit so many of my like interest points, like things that I find fascinating or things that I love. So, but Brandon, I didn't even think about that. It's kind of like the exact opposite of an exploitation film. It's actually showing like, you know, reality of situations in so many ways. But I love, and AJ, I think you kind of mentioned this earlier, but like it kind of highlighted that there's beauty even within poverty. There's beauty within struggle, and just like, you know, that everybody coming together in that barn scene to go to the, you know, the opening night of the Juke, and like they're all happy and everybody's smiling, like in a world where like they have every reason not to be, and they can find that joy together. Like that really, this film highlights stuff like that to me. And I think that's such an important message for people to see. Like, just because the time is difficult doesn't mean that it's all that way for the people that exist in there. And it's important that we can kind of understand that about those communities, but also kind of what helped them get through it. Right. For Slim, it's alcohol. For, you know, for others, it's music and pursuit of money and everything else. So it's individual to everybody. I love the messages. I loved the experience. There's not much more I can share, I guess.
Nice. Yeah, I also gave it 5 out of 5. Well, I think we all probably did. It is definitely a 5 out of 5 film. Like Brandon said, even though with the little small things that I might have thought about it doesn't matter. This movie is it's a full package. It's amazingly done. it obviously causes people to talk about it, right? Like there's so much discourse around the movie, and that's what you want as a filmmaker. You want people to talk about your stuff, and he accomplished that for sure. And yes, Dave, it does display Black joy, and that's what I love about it because what did he say? About working all week and I just want to feel free for like a day or something like that. But yeah, I think that's what we as a community need right now, especially like I feel like this film is kind of like what Get Out was in 2017 for the community. It's what we needed then, and this is what we needed now. Like in spite of everything else that's going on in the world, we can still have some joy, and I think that that's what is displayed in the film. But yeah, perfect. It's perfect from beginning to end.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. The film is a masterpiece. I gave it a 5 out of 5 as well. It's a breathtaking film. It's an inspiring film. It's a film that, as a Black man watching it, like it just made me feel proud. Like, proud of my heritage, proud of where I came from, proud of who I am. And not only that, like, Ryan Coogler, and with all the films that he has, like Brandon mentioned with Black Panther, right? Like he has this way of perfectly demonstrating Black joy, Black community, Black experience in a way that obviously as a Black person, I can, find it and relate to it and enjoy and experience that. But he still makes it relatable to, cultures outside of that. So they have an understanding of how it is as well. So it's not like it's closed off. It's for everybody to enjoy and understand that Black experience and Black community. But there's so many different aspects and layers to this film that I thought were incredible. I feel like he's helped transcend the horror genre. It's up there with, incredible masterclass films, from whether it be non-horror or horror. Like it now exists in a plane of its own. I was watching the interview that Spike Lee did. He actually mentioned he was like, man, like Ryan invented his own genre with this shit. I don't even know how to box this in, and that's just how this movie is. Like this movie is just so special that like it's just its own thing. You know what I'm saying? It's incredible to experience. I can't wait to watch it again. I hope that this movie succeeds.
It's going to,
because there's been some weird ass messaging that makes me feel a certain type of way. But I really hope that people go out and support this film and see it. We went on, the last night was Monday night. We went to IMAX showing. I have never on a Monday night showing seen a movie theater packed
at the IMAX.
Yeah, Monday.
I was like, because we hadn't even got tickets, right? I was like, oh, we'll just go up and go to the kiosk and get tickets. When we park in we pull up to the parking lot, we look around like, oh shit, like what are they here for Sinners? And we walk in, the concessions is almost to the door. We're like, oh,
that's good.
Like we're hurried up and getting the tickets, and
luckily there were some seats left. Not great ones. Not the ones I wanted.
It didn't matter though.
He was in there.
We was in there. That's all that mattered. But man, like, congratulations to Ryan Coogler and just the entire team that helped make this film. It was an incredible team effort, and they've created something truly special, a true cinematic experience. Because people love to be like, oh, is this cinema? This shit is cinema right here. You know what I'm saying? This is a film that everybody needs to go out and see. I hope it keeps killing it. I think it's sitting at 98% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. I hope it stays up there. I personally think this is probably gonna be the best film of the year, and go down as one of the absolute greats. I'm excited to see what Ryan Coogler does next. But man, like this, I think this puts him in that category of one of the greats in terms of being a director. But yeah, just shout out to everybody involved. Looking forward to what everybody does next. That's Sinners, y'all. Super, super dope film. But hey, look, shout out to PVD Horror for joining us on this Sinners spoiler discussion. Thank y'all so much for joining us. I want to pass it over to y'all. Please do share like what y'all have upcoming, share where people can find you, plug yourself across all avenues and platforms.
You can find us on social media at PVD Horror on all platforms, on X,
Blue Sky,
Instagram, Blue Sky. We're new to Blue Sky, so it's like, we
working on it.
Used to it. Threads,
TikTok,
YouTube.
Yeah, all of it. We got May 30th. We got a local event, like I mentioned earlier, Death Spa with Karen Parsons from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So we're super excited about that. There'll be a meet and greet and all that stuff. And then we do our monthly movie night. So if you're local to us, definitely check out the social media to see what we got coming up. And thank you guys for having us. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
I'm glad we were able to sit down with you about this movie. I don't know. When I first thought about it, I was like having a spoiler discussion. I was like, let's ask PVD Horror.
Yeah.
AJ was like, oh yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Appreciate
100%
that.
Yeah. Exactly how that went.
So I'm glad you guys could come on.
Yeah, thank y'all so much for joining us. Definitely, I would love to do this again. So another big horror film comes out. If y'all want to hop on and do a spoiler discussion, like let us know. Awesome. We can definitely make that happen. But to all of our viewers and listeners, please do go check out PVD Horror. They mention all their handles. Go check them out. They are super dope. Again, thank y'all so much for joining us. Thank you to the viewers and listeners for tuning into the Sinners spoiler discussion. Drop all your thoughts down in the comments. What were your thoughts about this film from all the different categories that we talked about? Let us know how you're feeling. And, let's just talk about Sinners, man. Like that's going to be the topic of conversation for weeks and weeks to come. And I'm super hyped for it. But again, shout out to everybody. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll see you the next one. We out. Peace.